The river red gum, or carra in the language of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains, is the most common tree of the rivers and streams of the Murray-Darling Basin. Indigenous Australians used the tree to make canoes, weapons and shelters. Some of the trees had great spiritual significance. The early settlers used the river red gum to build wharves, railways and houses. While its numbers have declined, the river red gum is now being planted as a means of regenerating degraded land in the Murray-Darling Basin. At the request of the Federal Court, the Commonwealth commissioned Greyhawk to use river red gum to create the bench, bar table and panelling in the principal courtroom of the new Commonwealth Law Courts in Adelaide. This DVD shows how an artist and master craftsman in timber took an ancient tree and transformed it into inspiring furniture for one of Australia's important public spaces.
There's an incredible amount of work going into harvesting big trees. Now, what I have to point out is that what I'm looking for are dead trees, and preferably trees that are lying on the ground is mainly my source of red gum. And there's obvious ecological reasons that's the direction I try and go in. And that's pretty much the story of the trees that were used in this job. As you can see here, we've got a thin cross section that's been radially cut, and from the centre of the tree where I am, going to the outside bark edge, and we've got this amazing, on just the odd ancient tree, we get this really spiky edge. It's almost like shark's teeth. And you can see here in this sample that I've got here, you can see very similar, but we've still got the bark on the outside. It's sort of dried and keyed onto those teeth. We could peel that off if we drive a wedge in there. Here you can see on this sample as well that we've got all this the termites have eaten this far out in this particular piece. So they haven't left us a lot. When you start working with a material like this, more and more you fall in love with it. It's, and every job of course is different, but it always has its rewards. Every tree is different and it has different properties to work with. And sometimes I can spend a couple of weeks making up a tabletop, but it's not until I get to that final sand of 400 that all of a sudden you can see twice or three times as much depth into it, and it just starts radiating this visual beauty. And then you throw on a few coats of lacquer and you just go, wow, what a gift. Well, traditionally, us cabinet makers would cut a straight line down here, because we're working in straight lines. We'd cut a straight line down here, and then we'd butt those two together, and we'd have a nice mirror image along a central mirror line. And we call it a book match traditionally. But when I cut this tree, I was looking at it, I'm going, how beautiful is this? If we could somehow incorporate this jagged, toothy edge of this ancient tree into these pieces, that would be an exceptional opportunity to really tell the story of these trees. This has been a wonderful opportunity for us to put together a body of work that is really outstanding in what it represents and what it exemplifies in a very public and important space. For me, it represents part of our natural culture, and one that's rapidly disappearing, one that needs more respect and consideration, particularly when we socially are becoming more aware of the environmental degradation that we've created, and are hoping to take more responsible action towards maintaining and re-establishing this wonderful renewable resource. think it's far exceeded our expectations. I think what we were looking at before was two-dimensional plans that we developed into these three-dimensional curves work platforms, and the levels add to the dynamics of it. But really what's made the difference and where it's evolved as we've gone along is the timbers that we've been able to procure and the way that we've utilised them, as you can see in the panelling and even in the hob tops. We've got this mirror image working in the curves of the blonde sapwood included in the joint of the boards. So really it's far as exceeded in many respects our expectations, and a lot of that has hinged on our ability to work with the materials that came to hand at the time.
We sit here today as a full court of 9 judges to mark the occasion of the first hearing in the principal courtroom of the new Commonwealth Law Courts here in Adelaide. One of the great ideas that inspired this building was that it should have, as part of its very essence, outstanding works of public art and artistic craftsmanship. I therefore now wish to place on public record our appreciation of the work of the artists. It should surely be an essential part of our public life that our creative people should, on an occasion such as this, receive the recognition that is their due. The River Edgum plays a very important part in the interior architecture of this building, and particularly in this courtroom, where Mr. Gray Hawke, a master craftsman and artist in timber, created the furniture and panelling that you see in this courtroom today.